This is YG-TV in the YG stage, powered by Circle Electric and sponsored by Fleet Farm, Health Payment Systems, and Bell Bank Mortgage. I'm your host, Andy Wines, president of Green Up Solutions, here on set at Serendipity Labs. Young Guns is a growing group of entrepreneurs and free thinkers that are sharing the new ways to grow your business, build your brand, and make an impact. YG Stage, powered by Circle Electric, is one of 4 shows hosted here on YG-TV, where we feature business owners, CEOs, subject matter experts, and maybe even you, to inspire, innovate, and break the rules of business. For all the content shaking up the business industry, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow our podcast wherever you take in podcasts. You can also find all this information at younggunsmovement.com. Today, we welcome Paul Can of Yes I Can, high performance and authenticity coaching and consulting. Paul Can talks about death by cubicle. It's all about choices, not decisions. Today is the day to make the choice. Circle Electric is a 35-year-old commercial, industrial, and healthcare electrical contractor with engineers and designers on staff, backed by the most technical and well-trained master and journeyman electricians. Whether it's an equipment move, new building, or commercial remodel, from pre-construction all the way through startup, primary power, branch power, or low-voltage systems, we're here to support you. Our 24/7 on-call service department is here to meet your electrical needs for our industrial and healthcare customers. You always hear safety first. We are safety always. Circle Electric will maintain electrical reliability for business continuity.
For more than 80% of families, today's medical billing practices are confusing. At HPS, our goal is to improve the healthcare experience for the patient by making medical bill payments less stressful. In Wisconsin, that's all made possible by our comprehensive independent healthcare provider network. We simplify billing and lower costs for everyone involved in healthcare and offer various ways for individuals to pay without breaking the bank.
Fleet Farm has everything you need for every season of life. From tending the vegetable garden season to planting 100 acres of crops season. Fleet Farm is your one-stop shop, whether it's strawberry jam season, cook your walleye season, or his first set of wheels season. Fleet Farm is built for every season. Fleet Farm, built for real life.
Let's welcome Paul Can to the stage.
Hey, Andy.
How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
Absolutely. So let's talk. What are we talking about today?
We are going to talk about something that I think is the perfect time. It's going to be called death by cubicle. How hating your job is the new normal. I mean, how many of us have known someone or been in a situation before where we're just miserable where we're at? And I think it's time to change that.
Normally, this is where I ask, why does it matter? But we don't have to do that. That's it. Like that title, like if you're not ready, like if you like, I guess here's the deal. This is really simple. If you hate your job, keep watching. If you know someone that hates their job, keep watching. I guess third option, if you don't know anybody that hates their job, keep watching. So you can see these signs in the future. But I think everybody knows somebody or is in a position or has been in a position where they hate going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. There's 85% of the workforce has reported that they're not happy with their job. So it's majority of people, and chances are you probably either know somebody or that's you.
Or the third option is you are the employer that's creating that environment.
Yes, and you should probably watch just to see what are the signs that you need to pay attention to and what are some of the things that you can shift so that people don't end up leaving and people can actually thrive in your environment.
Yeah, so if you're in that final category of you don't think you know anybody, you might be the problem. So lean in now and listen to what he has to say. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Thanks, Andy. Several years ago, I was a district manager, and I still remember this day where I was just so exhausted after a long day of work. And frankly, I was looking forward to going home and enjoying the meal that my wife had been texting me all day about and just relaxing and recharging for the day. And as I was packing up my bag and getting ready to head home, my phone rings and my heart drops. I look and it's my relief rep. And I just had this gut feeling that it probably wasn't going to end up very good. And as I picked up the phone, my heart dropped. He told me he'd pulled his back. See, I was so frustrated because just the night before, I had placed him in his new area to replace the previous rep that had called me at 8 p.m. the night before, saying that he quit the job, he walked out on it, left the keys, left the handheld in the truck, and he was done. And it was 2.5 hours away from where I was. So I grabbed my stuff, went back home, packed a quick bag, and drove out for 2.5 hours to a small town, middle of nowhere, to finish the route. And bearing a smile, I had to go customer to customer and hear them complain over and over again, well, here's another rep that didn't work out again. And so as I backed my truck into the small tin bin that held all our inventory and I rolled up the door, staring back at me was this endless sea of cardboard boxes stacked from the floor to the ceiling, just row after row after row. And I was going to have to count every bag of chips, seeds, and nuts in this bin and in the truck before I could even go home that night. And it was 9 p.m. It felt like I was standing in front of a haunted house. You know when you're standing at the front door and you just know that you're going to have a terrible time? And you just know that you're probably going to, bear through it, and you just pray to God at the end of the night that you're going to make it through alive. That's how I felt in that moment. And I still remember the wind was howling outside. It was pitch black outside. And it was minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, coming from Canada, I know it's 40 degrees Fahrenheit because at minus 40, it's the same for Celsius and Fahrenheit. That's how cold it is. And I couldn't feel my cheeks because the snow was just pelting my face over and over. And, I could barely feel my toes and my fingers were starting to numb. And I just kept pacing back and forth in the bin, trying to stay warm and hoping that I wasn't going to get frostbite. And by the time I was done, it was midnight. And just when I thought I was finished, I looked at the far left corner in the front of the bin and I saw a stack of cardboard from the floor to the ceiling that I was going to have to strap by hand. And right at that moment, pop! The lights went out. And I just broke down. Why am I here right now? What is all of this for? I mean, my parents had told me my whole life, sacrifice, work hard. It's called work for a reason because you're not supposed to like it. It's work. But is this truly the only way? Did it have to be grueling and difficult and miserable for me to create success? And is it only when I have that nice big house, the white picket fence, the kids, the overflowing savings account that I can finally feel like I am living fully alive? That I can finally feel like I'm free? See, this is the reality of today's workplace. And maybe you're not working in the middle of nowhere, you're not working in minus 40 degrees weather, or you're not hauling boxes all over the place. But 85% of today's full-time workforce has reported that they're unhappy with their job. And so it comes down to, is this really all there is? Or is there another option? And throughout my journey, and as I've worked with different clients, I've come to realize there's a few key aspects that help us escape this death by cubicle so that we don't end up like the frog in slowly boiling water. And the first aspect to that is we get to stop chasing a false horizon. You know what's the most brilliant part of Netflix? The most brilliant feature that they have is that 2-second button at the very bottom that scrolls all the way through and then starts playing the next episode. And it doesn't even give you time to get up off your couch and go towards the computer and pause it or stop it or turn it off before the next episode starts playing. And then you're like, okay, well, all right, one more. And next thing you know, it's 7 a.m., you haven't slept all night, you're exhausted, and the whole entire morning is shot because guess what? You stayed up the entire night watching Netflix, which was supposed to be the very thing that was supposed to help you feel relaxed in the first place. This is what it's like to be on the perpetual treadmill of work. See, we get caught up in this idea that we are chasing a very tangible horizon, that it's something that we're going to get to, and once we get there, everything is going to be amazing. But what we don't realize is that what it's more like, it's like Netflix. It never actually ends. Because we always think that, when I get the next pay raise, when I finally make partner, when my kids are finally old, when it's not so busy anymore and everything quiets down, then I will. The then I will never actually arrives because this horizon, it continues to shift. Once you get to the marker, the next thing comes up, the next bill comes up, the next life event comes up, and then it never ends. It's like this perpetual treadmill that we choose to be on until we choose not to be on it. And next thing you know, your kids are 18 and they're moving out of the house and they're going to college and you realize you didn't make any time for them. And now you don't have a relationship with them. And you and your spouse, you're on opposite sides of the bed, kind of sticking to your edge, scrolling through your phone at night, going through social media, checking out the next YouTube video or Facebook feed because you have nothing to talk about. And you're exhausted and tired all the time. And those health issues that used to be a subtle little nudge, well, it's more now like a blazing siren and you can't avoid it anymore. And in 2012, Bronnie Ware, who was an Australian palliative care nurse, she spent several years interviewing and talking to her patients in their last 12 weeks of their lives. And she realized that there was a few common themes in terms of things that as they reflect back on their life, they regretted, things that they wish that they did differently. And number 5 was, I wish I let myself be happier. And number 4 was, I wish I stayed in touch with my friends. Number 3, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. And number 2, I wish I didn't work so hard. And number 1, the most common one of all, out of everyone that she talked about, was, I wish that I had the courage to live a life that was true to myself and not what others wanted of me. See, often when we are chasing towards a goal, we think about what's the end that we want to have in mind. Let's start with the end in mind. What if we actually lived that way? What if we started living with the end in mind? What would that look like for you? How do you get to start living today so that when you get to the true end, the true horizon that we're chasing, that we can look back on our lives and feel 100% complete, like we fully lived alive and that we had no regrets? Now, here's the beautiful thing is that if you're in a place today where you're looking back and you're like, you know what, I have not been fully authentic to who I am, I've not been living a life fully alive, then here's the great news is that today can be the day that you change that. Today, you have a choice. And before you do that, there's another fundamental thing that gets to shift in order for us to fully create the life that we've always wanted. And the aspect that often holds us back is we become victim to our circumstance. See, when I was a district manager, I would think, you know what, when I'm going to make it to head office, when I make it to the nice shiny glass building on the 8th floor, and I'm going to have that nice cushy job, I'm going to be doing different things, they're going to be strategic, they're going to be fun, I'm going to be around different people, I don't have to deal with these customers anymore, I don't have to deal with these employees anymore, that everything is going to change. And you know what? For a bit, it did. just for a little bit. Things seemed like they changed and they transformed. But actually, what I realized over time is that when I didn't address what was truly underneath, the things that were my problems before just ended up changing shape. Because at the end of the day, when I got back to my regular routine, I was still a workaholic. I was still a busyaholic. I was still taking work home all the time. I was putting work above everything else. I was still disconnected at home. I was exhausted. I was stressed out all the time, thinking about what is this endless to-do list that I still got to tackle that I don't even know when it's going to end. And I just didn't have any emotional bandwidth left to even be present with my wife. And so I found myself living in a penthouse with a 6-figure job, having no joy in my life. And my marriage was falling apart and it was hanging by a thread. And so, what is this all really for? And here's the thing, is that the problem that we think is the problem is actually not the problem. Because it's not the problem itself. It's how we see the problem. Because here's the thing, you can quit your job today, you can go get another job, you can go start a business, and nothing will actually change unless we change what is fundamentally under that. Because if we don't get to what's really underneath, then we're just trading one jail cell for another one with a different view. Because here is the thing, is that in order to step into the driver's seat of our life and truly create the life we want, we get to be 100% responsible for our lives. And not from a place of guilt or shame or blame, but knowing that you are the sole uncontested author of your life. And if it's to be, it's up to me. And the problem is that often we walk around our jobs and our lives and we look at everything as a have to. Oh, I'm a victim to it, because you may not be saying that out loud, but what's the undertone is that, well, I can't do this because, this always happens to me, this always, this never. These definitive statements come from a place of victim, because you're placing your power outside of you. And you're saying that these external circumstances control my life and control who I am. And it doesn't matter where you shift and where you go, that will not change until we choose to come out of the passenger seat of our lives and step into the driver's seat. You see, nothing is a have to. You don't have to show up at work. You don't have to pay your taxes. You don't have to show up at your son's soccer game. You don't have to buy gifts for your significant other on Valentine's Day. You don't have to do anything. You choose to. And if you're choosing to, it means that we get to shift our perspective from a have to, which is heavy, which is a burden, which is, I have no other choice, to I get to. Just like how you get to wake up at 5 a.m. and take your flight to the Bahamas for your vacation, just like you get to wake up and jump out of bed and open your presents on Christmas Day. You get to. You see, the thing that distinguishes leaders and those that are not leaders, those that end up following, is leaders come from a place of choice. Choice is not the same as decision. Choice comes from a place of vision. It's about starting with the end in mind. Choice is about possibility. Choice is about, I don't have it in front of me right now, but I am going to figure it out. I'm going to bet on myself and I will find a way. This is the place that the Wright brothers came from when they chose to create the first airplane. This is where Richard Branson came from when he chose to create Virgin Airlines. This is where Elon Musk came from when he chose to create SpaceX. There wasn't any evidence in front of them, but they chose it. They chose it because they bet on themselves. They chose it because they chose to be 100% responsible for their lives. And that's different from a decision, where decision comes from limitation. Decision comes from, this is all I have right now, so I don't have any other choice but to make the decision with what I have. It comes from past experience. It comes from needing proof in order to move forward. Decision is what ultimately holds us back. And here's the thing. People keep thinking that corporate America is this invisible prison that we are encapsulated in. But the truth is that there's no lock on this door. There is no lock on this door, and you can walk out of it at any time if you choose it. So, when we step into choosing and being 100% responsible, the next aspect that is in our way that we get to break through is how we place our value often outside of ourselves. We place it in something or someone other than ourselves. And often I hear this narrative that, I can't leave my job because of the money. I'm too comfortable where I am right now. I got bills to pay, the kids, they got a few more years until they're gonna be out of school. And then finally, I'm gonna do the thing that I've always wanted to do. But here's the thing, is that money is just value. $100,000 can be a lot of money, or it can be very little money. $1 million can be a lot of money or not so little money, especially if you're from New York or Los Angeles, you know what I'm talking about. It's not that much because it comes down to value. So what is the value that you place on time with your kids? What is the value of your mental health? What is the value of a happy and connected marriage? See, often we think that we're just trading our time, and we think that that's the only thing that we're exchanging, but there are much deeper prices underneath the surface that we don't even realize that we are paying for every single day. And here's the thing, is that no one can value you more than you value yourself. And at the end of the day, it's not your employer's job to pay you what you're worth. Their job is to pay you what the job is worth. And your job is to find the difference. I remember when I was in my corporate job, and I always just thought, I'm a middle-level employee, a mid-level manager. I'm in level 8. I didn't really think I was that big of a deal because there was so many other people that had similar experiences, and I would continuously discount myself. And so when I talked to my directors and I talked to my managers, I would play down my gifts. I would play down my experience, and I wouldn't amp myself up and prop myself up. And guess what? I didn't get the promotions, and I was left wondering why. And it wasn't until I went to a customer trip and I was talking to other presidents and directors of other companies that I realized I had been drastically undervaluing myself. I'm drastically undervaluing my experiences and who I was and how I was showing up. And it is only when we fully see ourselves that we can give permission to others to fully see ourselves as well. And here's the thing, is that if you are with an employer right now that doesn't fully see you, you get to be your own biggest advocate. And if your employer still doesn't recognize it, you get to choose different. You get to find someone else who will. And you get to diversify. I think if anything, the pandemic has had us asking ourselves, who are we? Who are we without our jobs? Who are we when everything that we've measured ourselves by, which is our income, which is our job, is no longer there? And if anything, we've found that a bad economy, a company that closes, a job that is no longer in existence, can easily wipe us out unless we choose different, unless we choose for it not to. And that's why it's so incredibly important to bet on yourself and create your own economy, create your own multiple streams of income. Because nobody is going to be your best advocate except for yourself. So, when we are standing in our vision, when we are living with the ultimate end in mind, when we are 100% responsible for our lives, when we fully value and own our value, when we value ourselves, there's one key fundamental question that is left that can either keep you stuck where you are or can completely transform your life and be the launch pad in which you take off towards creating the life that you've always wanted. And that is, what are you willing to give up in order to have what you want? And often, that's the very thing that keeps us stuck. And I love the story that one of my coaches shared with me a couple of years ago. And she shared with me the story about the moldy peanuts. And she said, often in life, It's like we walk around holding on to these moldy peanuts. And these moldy peanuts are there because that's just what we're used to. That's what we've had all our lives. And we dream about the day when we're going to go to this amazing buffet and we're going to taste all the food around the world. And finally, we are going to let go of these moldy peanuts that we have been eating our whole lives, that we're just so sick and tired of. And finally, one day we get to that buffet. We get to that buffet and we have this incredible spread of food. And yet, what ends up happening is we end up looking at our moldy peanuts and we hold on to them because it's what we're used to, because it's what we're comfortable with, because it's what we know. And we end up walking away from this buffet eating our moldy peanuts when this is the very thing that we've always been dreaming of. So when you reflect that back to your life, what are the things that you have continued to hold on to that are not serving you, that are in the way of everything that you want? Are you willing to let go of being comfortable? Are you willing to let go of being liked? Are you willing to let go of not knowing, getting messy, not being perfect all the time? What are you willing to let go of to have what you want? Because often we'll end up at the buffet, the very thing that you've always wanted, that life that you've always dreamed of, and we end up selling out on ourselves because we're more committed to being comfortable than to have the life that we've always wanted. So, the question that I leave you with is, who do you get to be? What is the life that you truly want to create? Because it is truly when we decide that being free is more important than being comfortable that we will finally escape a death by cubicle.
Appreciate it, Paul.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It was a ton of fun.
So I keep going back to those two words I love, choice versus decision. So what's the challenge people are facing, or what's the mental block where they don't make that choice from your perspective?
It's fear. It's that fear of not knowing. It's that fear of, well, what if? What if it doesn't happen? Or, you know what? Everything I have right now, it's just so comfortable. Like it's paying my bills, it's giving me the life, and it's okay right now. And we end up tolerating it. And so we end up making decisions based on, this is how much I have in my bank account right now. This is what's available to me right now. This is what has always happened up until this point. And we can't see past the limitation of past experiences. And that's what ends up keeping us in this decision-making bubble versus making a choice.
So how do we get over that fear?
Well, what it comes down to is the very last question that I brought up, which is, what are you willing to let go of? What are you willing to let go of to have what you want? Because here's the thing is that if we want to drastically transform our lives, it's going to require doing something completely different. We're going to be getting uncomfortable. We're going to be getting messy. And we got to be willing to let go of the comfort zone. We got to be willing to let go of the, I got to know everything and every step and have it all planned out for 5 years. We got to be willing to let go of it. We got to be willing to jump and risk and be okay with building the parachute as we are on our way down. And trust. I think trust is such a big part of it. I think often we're in this scarcity mindset, like we're not provided for, like I gotta, no one else is gonna help me and this is it and this is all I have. And we're like holding on to it for dear life when the more we hold on to it, it's kind of like sand. We'll hold on to it and just keep escaping from our hands because the more tightly we hold on to things, the more we resist something, the more it persists.
All right, awesome. I mean, I think as I'm listening to you talk, it all makes sense. It's all about those choices versus the decisions, right? There's limitation on decisions and explaining that, getting over that hump of fear. One thing that, as you were talking, I'm just kind of reflecting, I'm thinking, you said, what are we willing to give up? And I look at it like a, balancing act. Well, it's an up and down, a pros and cons list, right? I'm thinking, how do I tactically solve this? What the challenge is, right? What aligns? Because a lot of times we even talk work-life balance, right? Balance means you have to give something up, and right, it's this, and you're playing this all along. And I think that from a tactical perspective, that works. But strategically, right, it's that aligning. What aligns with my values, my beliefs? What aligns with my motivations or having the end state in mind? And how do I get there in a linear fashion versus that balance that I'm hearing you say? Because I struggle with it too, I think, right? If we think about it from a balance perspective, because it's a this for that, versus an alignment where it's, well, this is where I'm going, And it's okay if I shed these other things. Hey, I want that financial independence, or I want that freedom, or I want this. And also, not defining what is success from a dollar perspective, but what is success from a life perspective.
Yeah.
So, I'm thinking because I'm a very tactical person. I want to say, I want the magic nugget, always. I want the golden bullet, let's do the thing. But I really think for me, it's that, okay, what are the choice? And accepting, okay, this is what I'm going to lose. But accepting that choice. And also, I love it, right? Choice is making a decision based off of that abundance mindset, right? Deciding is making a decision out of a scarcity. I have to decide between left and right versus choice is I choose to do this, and what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing is that we hear that term work-life balance a lot.
Yeah.
I don't really like the word balance. I like integration. Because at the end of the day, it's not, like you said, there's only 100%. And we view things as, okay, well, I got to take away this in order to have this. And we only have 24 hours in the day at the end of the day.
Yep.
But here's the thing is that it's not about how much time we have. It's about how present we are in the moment that we have.
Yep.
So you can be hanging out with your kids for 5 hours and be completely disconnected and on your phone and checking your emails. Or you can spend 15, 20 minutes with them and be fully present. Be fully present to what are they saying? What are they telling me? Be there. Like, kids are so good at calling us out on that. They're like, are you here? Like, hello? Like, they're so good at it. Like, you're on your phone again. Like, I know my nephew would say that all the time. You're constantly working. Like, are you going to come play with us or what?
Yeah.
And I think children are such a great reminder in terms of being present. Like, they are, whatever is in front of them, they are totally into that. And when they're done with it, and they're moving on to the next thing. That's how we get to show up. Often we're so far in the future. We're thinking about what's next, or we're so far in the past, like, oh man, like I should have done this better, and we're busy beating ourselves up. But when we're fully present in the moment, when we are paying attention to, okay, if I'm with my friends, I'm with my spouse right now, with my partner, that I'm fully here and I'm connected to what they're saying, I'm connected to how they're feeling, I'm fully present, I'm not thinking about what's the next thing, I'm not 5 steps ahead, then we get to stretch our time. Mm-hmm. And the other aspect of it is that we often feel like, oh, this is all there is, and so, I got to pick and choose. Well, what actually ends up happening is that time isn't linear as well. There are many things that we can do simultaneous, not that you're multiplying yourself, but there are many ways that we can show up in our lives where, we don't have to do everything. We can ask for support. We can, let go of the things that are not serving us. We kind of often have this like hoarding mentality of opportunities. Like, oh, I got to say yes to this because if I don't, then I'm not going to get it again. But I love what you said about alignment, because it is about what's aligned with you at the end of the day. And if it's not, we get to let go of it and create space in our lives. And I think that's a challenge, is that often we don't create space and we end up so full, like a hoarder's house, that we have no opportunity to even breathe.
No, it's interesting. I say alignment, you say integration. First thing I thought of was a rope, right? If there's 3 aspects, I'm just going to say 3 aspects to yourself, right? Yourself, your family, your employment. Let's just say those are the 3 defining whatever, integrate, right? But I think about that rope. You have 3 linear things that align, but they're not intertwined. There's only so much strength. But as soon as you start intertwining them and weaving them.
Yes.
Like, as I'm thinking, I was like, that literally builds the strength. And you also talk about kind of that capacity piece, or that you can stretch it, right? With a rope that has this integrations, right? It's not this linear thing. We're not trying to get to the end, because as you weave a rope, right, it gets shorter, but it has that elasticity. And these things connect. And who you bring along on your journey, how you integrate into people, that builds the strength that is the rope of your life. Which goes with what we're talking about, not a balance thing, like, oh, I have these 3 things. No, how do we align them? Yes. And then moreover, I love integration, because now it's not just these 3 things right in a line, it's how do they integrate and build that strong life.
Absolutely. And I think what we realize is that we're stronger together. Stronger together in terms of bringing people along with us. Like, we get into this busyness of, I don't have time for things. I don't have time. And what ends up happening is, when I talked about the top 5 regrets, one of them was, well, I wish I stayed in touch with my friends. And those are the things that we let go of, that we make other things more important. But when we bring others into our lives to support us, when we are willing to just ask, we'd be so surprised what can come out on the other side. We don't have to do everything alone, and we're not meant to live life alone either. So I love what you said about kind of the weaving in, the integrating of the ropes, because we are stronger together. And even if one phrase, the other 2 have got you.
I love it. All right. Integrate, weave the rope. My rule is do the thing.
Yeah.
Right? And don't die in your cubicle. Right?
Yes, don't die in your
cubicle, because we just gave you all the tools and resources to not die in your cubicle. Choose to integrate your life.
Yeah, choose it. You can always choose it. And I think we're always in this, oh, we should have done it yesterday or maybe one day. But you know what? Right now is the best time.
It's always the best time.
So it's the best time for day one. And right now is always the best time to get started.
Well, appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Andy.
Don't die in your cubicle. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Thanks again, Paul Can, for taking the YG stage here at Serendipity Labs. Now, are you ready to step on the stage, or do you know someone who is? Help us feature the best speakers around by heading to younggunsmovement.com and applying to be on the show. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, tune into the podcast, and stay up to date with the Young Guns on social media to get the latest content. I'm your host, Andy Wines, president of Green Up Solutions. Thanks for tuning in.